So I'm Janie Goddard. Good morning, everybody, if you haven't actually done one of these sessions before. I'm joined today by the absolutely amazing woman. She's just honestly hats off. Johann Callaghan has been a CMA member for a while now, and it wasn't until we did her CMA showcase video that I'd had the opportunity to speak with her one-on-one. And quite honestly, my mind was blown. This woman is incredible. She's just a lady of many, many talents, and so productive and so brilliant, and has built this fantastic business and does many, many things, books and courses and so on. So I said, after we finished doing our CMA showcase video, which of course you are all entitled to do with me, so please get signed up for that if you haven't done so already. And I see some names that I know haven't done it yet, so please don't be shy. Let's get that done. It's such a fantastic practice growth exercise for you. But anyway, moving on from that, after Joanne and I finished speaking, honestly, I just said to her, look, we've got to get you on the CMA breakfast briefing, which, as you know, is all about how I built this. It's what we did to get to thrive personally and professionally in practice and in business and in teaching and in writing. So Joanne, let me introduce you and say, could you please tell the audience a little bit about the work that you do? Because I'd waffle on about you all day because you're so amazing.
Great, yeah. So my name is Johann Callaghan, and I'm living in Ireland, in Athy, County Kildare, so it's South County Kildare in the Midlands. It's blooming, roasting here with the heat, but we won't complain. It's all good. So who am I? Well, I'm the sleep success coach, and I love everything about sleep, and I've many reasons why. Obviously, I've experienced a lot of sleepless nights throughout my life. And, you know, I think we all do at some point in our lives. It's inevitable that we're going to have a disrupted night's sleep, but where it causes problems, if there's continuous disruptions of sleep, it can really have an impact on so many levels. And I'm going to talk about that. But the reason why I got into sleep when I was young, my father drank quite a lot, so I had many sleepless nights there. He used to stand at my door talking all night, and I'd get up for school exhausted the next day. And moving on a few years later as a teenager, you know, the same thing again, going into school. And then I started working, and my dad, I'm still living at home with my dad. And oh my God, I used to go into work absolutely exhausted. I bought myself a car, and I remember driving the car, and it's actually so dangerous to drive your car when you're sleep deprived, because it's like being equal to being over the limit for drink driving when you're sleep deprived. It is really, really dangerous. So it loads of different, I'd restless legs for a long time. When I was pregnant, the last 3 months of my pregnancy, I used to cry on the side of my bed for the want of a good night of sleep. And then when I got married, my husband had sleep apnea. I didn't even know what sleep apnea was, but I really talk a lot about sleep apnea. It is a medical condition, and I am not a doctor, but I have the experience of having a partner with sleep apnea, and it can be very dangerous if it's not treated and looked after. So I didn't even know what it was at the time. So I have many reasons why I really appreciate my sleep. When I bought my own house, and I moved in there on my own house, and I remember being able to sleep right through the whole night, and it was just bliss. And my life flourished after that. I had less colds and flus. I was feeling better. I was more optimistic, more outgoing. I had a purpose in life. Everything changed. And I want to share this with people. And the reason I got into sleep, and the reason I wrote my book, I started doing holistic work. And actually, that was after my daughter Megan died. So when I got married, my daughter Megan died right at birth, right on the day she was due. So it was devastating. And I went through years of depression after that, and everything that you normally would expect. Sleepless nights, a lot of sleepless nights again. And so I got into holistic work after that, because I met a spiritual lady, and she showed me how to love myself again. She showed me all about forgiveness and how to really live life. And what I got from that was how powerful human beings are. It's all in how we think, and we create our own lives. And I really got to see that. So what has sleep got to do with that? Well, obviously there's so many people in the world that are struggling, that have upsets in their lives. And if they're upset, it's going to have an impact on your spouse. It's going to have an impact on your children. It's going to have an impact on your parents. It's just going to have an impact on the world. It's a ripple effect. So sleep is not just for the individual, it's for your family, it's for the community, your workplace. It has an impact everywhere. And it's all about who you are being in life. I wrote a book then on sleep. My mentor told me to write a book on sleep. And when I wrote that book, the reason why I wrote it was because a lot of my clients were coming to me and they were complaining they were tired and exhausted and they'd no energy to play with their kids. And I thought, oh my God, like they're only so young. They were still young, very young. And when I wrote the book on sleep, what I got to see, because really sleep science has really only started in the last number of years, really. And the research and some of the studies that I found, I said to myself, oh my God, people have got to know about sleep. It impacts your brain function, your cognitive function, how you make decisions, all your prefrontal cortex up here. I got to see how it's connected to your amygdala, your emotional brain, how that all works, how it works in your body physically, your blood pressure, your sugar levels, diabetes, obesity, all of this is related to sleep. So I'm on a mission to share with people what I know about sleep and empower people to take it on, because we're all individuals and this is really, really important. So there's lots of guidelines out there, but it's up to you to find what it is you like to do and enjoy, because this doesn't have to be, we don't want it to be, I have to do this. We want it to be simple and fun. Otherwise you're just not going to do it, change your lifestyle habits. So I'm really all about empowering people to live a healthy life, because it's what you do during the daytime is what's going to impact your sleep at nighttime. It's not just the sleep process itself, it's a natural process. So anyway, so Jana, that's why I love what I'm doing. And you know what, when I get to see people how they are, and they're just so happy when they can sleep well at nighttime. And yeah, it's just really, really important.
It makes a huge difference for me, actually. I don't know if anybody else, and you know, obviously you can make notes in the comments in the chat box. Actually, in fact, I'll turn the chat box on just in case there are any comments coming up. But speaking personally, I'm a absolutely reformed insomniac, and I do sometimes slip back if I'm overstressed, overtired in the daytime, and you know, I will get to that point of not being able to sleep. And something that you just mentioned there, Joanne, I don't know if this is common for everybody, but I know myself, if I don't get a few nights of good sleep, I will gain 2 to 3 pounds of fat around my belly immediately, that fast, without changing any other lifestyle things, not changing my food, my intake, or my exercise, but it's that lack of sleep. And I was just wondering, you know, whether I just don't think it's that common that people know this. And I know that in menopause, women do tend to have difficulty with sleep. It's a known sort of menopause, one of the sequelae of menopause, isn't it? And you know, we talk about this menopause, you know, the menopause middle. And I'm just wondering if there is a connection, if you've discovered any of that.
Yeah, there's a couple of things there, you know. So obesity and overweight, look, there's so many people in the world now. It's an epidemic in of itself. You look at in America, and a lot of it, you know, people say it's down to the food as well. So yeah, the food has a lot to do with it. But you know, food is a very important cue in our circadian rhythm. But it's also what we're eating, but it's when we're eating. You know, the time that we're eating as well. That's a very big factor to play in this as well. I mean, for example, you can't eat a big meal right before you go to bed. That's a big no-no. That's going to have an impact. And when we lived in caves, we never ate right before we went to bed, right? Because the sun went down, we'd no light. So we've evolved this way. Our biology has evolved this way. So if we think about it, it makes sense. The other thing is, so cortisol, right? Cortisol is our stress hormone. So we all know what cortisol is. It is we do need cortisol. We need it to get us up in the morning time. But like everything else, it's the timing. It's embedded in our circadian rhythm. Cortisol is our stress hormone, but it wakes us up. It's our wakeful hormone. And with cortisol, this is our energy hormone. But the problem is we've so much stress in the world, even at nighttime before we go to bed. So when we have a lot of cortisol and when we've got a lot of insulin, because insulin comes out when there's sugar in our body, because insulin's job is to get the sugar into the cells and all of that. So when we've got insulin and cortisol, this competes with our melatonin. So as long as you have cortisol active in your body, melatonin is our sleep hormone, that can't be activated. It's like your dancing partner's cortisol, melatonin. Melatonin is usually high at nighttime. It's supposed to be high at nighttime. But if you have cortisol, and for many of us, the world that we're living in, we're stressed, we're worried, and it's a lot of psychological stress, as opposed to, like, there's loads of different types of stress, but it's the psychological stress, the emotional stress, the worries, that's what's causing people a lot of the stress. And this has a chemical reactions. It causes chemicals to, like cortisol, to come out. This impacts our sleep, and it raises our blood sugar as well, because we need energy. So if we've cortisol in our body, the body thinks there's a threat. So we need fuel, we need glucose. So it takes the glucose out, and you know, we've too much glucose, sugar running around the body. This adds to our weight. And then again, with insulin, when we've got insulin present in the body at nighttime, we cannot have melatonin, and also we cannot, the growth hormone comes out at nighttime, and the growth hormone is responsible for healing, repair, and all the growth. Obviously, teenagers have a lot of this growth hormone, but again, the growth hormone can't work optimally when you've got insulin in your body, and the growth hormone is a fat burning hormone. So it all makes sense. So you can see there's various different things at play here. And then you talked about menopause as well. So menopause, we're low in estrogen typically. And again, the estrogen does so much work in our body. And again, this contributes to us gaining weight. We tend to gain weight easier when there's less estrogen in the body as well. So there's various different factors there. But yeah, sleep has a very big correlation with weight gain and obesity and type 2 diabetes as a result, which you can get type 2 diabetes as a result of overweight.
Yes, it's so fantastic actually to hear the hormonal correlates with all of this stuff. And I think it's something that, you know, it's wonderful that you've gone into it all so deeply, and, you know, and that you are able to so eloquently explain all of the interrelationships with the hormonal cascade, which I think is so important. And it's such an important message for our clients, isn't it? And to be able to explain that to them in such straightforward terms. So, Johann, can I ask you, obviously, you started off as a practitioner. How did you sort of get into practice? And, you know, obviously you've built a very successful practice, and I was just wondering sort of how you managed to do that. What sort of pitfalls you found, if any, that you found along the way, and sort of how did that journey work out for you? Because the reason I ask is because when I did my postgrad degree, my MSc, my research study and my dissertation was on, it was called Thriving to Practice, Practicing to Thrive. And it was looking at those factors that enable some practitioners to thrive personally and professionally in practice, whereas the majority of people out there do struggle to build a practice. But, you know, and looking at what we can do to emulate those successes. So I'm always intrigued to speak to successful practitioners to find out what your journey was, and where things were difficult and where you triumphed. So could you say a little bit about all of that? Yeah.
So yeah, I had a lot of different things that I tried out. And, you know, the story with Thomas Edison, you know, it took him 10,000 goes to be successful with the light bulb. And when he was asked, he said, well, it's 10,000 ways that I know now that it didn't work. So that's the attitude, you know. So every time you fail, you're just learning that that's not the way to do it. You need to do it a different way. So I always look at things. That's the first thing. Look optimistically on things, but look for the lesson. When something doesn't work out, look for the lesson, or what can I do differently? So it's all about asking yourself questions. And it's just a different way of thinking. But I started off doing the holistic therapies. I just always wanted to do it, you know. It was just something I always wanted to do. So I did it at nighttime. So I trained at nighttime, doing the massage, reflexology, Reiki, all this. I loved the Reiki. I really got into the whole energy thing. I really got the energy, and we are energy before we are physical. You know, everything manifests from the energy. And when you get that, when you understand that, you know, if you think about it, when you're stressed, that energy of being stressed, or hanging around with somebody who just causes stress, who complains. Does anybody know here anyone who complains in their life all the time, and you just don't want to be around them? It drains you. So it's to be aware of all of this, is to be conscious living, you know, and to be aware of all of this as well, because you don't want to hang around to, obviously, you know, we've a lot of people in our family who are like that. And so the point is, we can't get away from our family, but spend less time around them. That's what I did. You know, I love my family, but you know what? They just don't get me. They don't get they think I'm weird sometimes, and that's okay. That's their stuff. You know, I know better. We're all on our own individual journey. So it's really important to know what it is, what you want from your heart. Too many of us are living up here in our head, and we're doing things to please other people. You know, my mum wants me to be this certain way, so we tend to not anybody here now. We're all perfect. It's other people I'm talking about, right? we want to follow and please our parents, you know. And you see successful business people and they're multimillionaires, but they're very lonely. They might be successful. So success, there's a lot to, you know, when you talk about success, what is success? It's a very big topic. You know, you could be successful, you know, people think it's to do with what you have, what you've acquired, a new car, the money. But you know, and then you could be a very lonely person. And we don't want that. That's bad for your health. So really follow your heart, listen to your heart, and stop doing things what you think other people should expect of you. And you will know, you will be lit up, even though it might sound crazy, and you might put yourself at risk for a few things, but you just know and have faith that something will work out. I went from the holistic massage, I started doing creams, aromatherapy creams. And I did a diploma with IFPA in aromatherapy, professional clinical aromatherapy, and I trained, and we made creams on that course. So I started making loads of creams, and I have some here, my muscle oil that I use on my massage clients, and loved it. But the thing was, it got a bit messy, and I had to clean the kitchen. I hate cleaning the kitchen, and that really, so I just stopped doing it. Now I still make a few of them, but to be honest with you, it was like, oh God, I have to wash up. And then when you get into a profession, you have to write down, record everything, and I don't do paperwork, right? So you have to write down everything, how you cleaned your utensils and I was like, oh, I'm not fit for this. So I stopped doing it, right? So now sometimes you can outsource, you can pay if you're a teenager or something, you know, you can make it work that way, whatever, but I just wasn't into that. So I transitioned from that. And it was a good experience, and it really stood to me, you know, making the creams. I still make a few of them. Like I save a lot of money, I make my own creams. But then I got into the sleep, and I lost a lot of money as well along the way. You know, there were times that weren't very good. I made a lot of mistakes. I used to work in a craft village, and the footfall was terrible, but I thought I was great. I had my own business. I had like a bricks and mortar. It was a log cabin, you know, but it was bricks and mortar, and you know, and but nobody was coming. But I wasn't marketing. So that's another aspect of business that you really have got to nail it. Marketing is, they say, 80% of your business. So if you're not good at marketing, outsource it. There's loads of VAs. You can pay college students even to come in and do some of the work, because a lot, when you're starting off, you don't have an awful lot of money. So there's ways and means around this. If you want to get your profile picture, go to you know, colleges, students who are doing photography courses, and ask them to you can be their guinea pig, and they can take a photograph. The same with video. I'm actually going to be looking at a film club to get somebody to do some film. I want to create a documentary, so this is the line that I'm going down, because I did get quotes and it came back thousands, and I want to do it for like a charity cause. So there's ways and means around all these things, but really follow your heart, and you know, you've got to enjoy it, because they say, you know, we call it work, but it's not really work, you know, and it's all about serving other people as well. And people get hung up on money, but you know, money comes after the serving. So serve first, help with it. And as human beings, we are wired to help other people. Who here has ever opened the door for somebody, like an old lady, right? And the old lady says, oh, thanks very much, bless you. And it lights you up. Who here has ever experienced that? It makes you feel good, doesn't it? So when we serve other people, it lights us up. This is where we get our kick, or, you know, our dopamine, whatever. And that's who we are. That's what we're meant to be doing. We're meant to be helping other people, and then the money will follow. So just really having those ideas in your head, really think about how you're thinking, ask yourself the right questions, look for the learning and everything that fails for you. There is no such thing as failure, as they say, you know, there's always something to see. So it's just having the right attitude, understanding your clients, just having empathy for them. So there's lots there, but I just love the work that I'm doing, and I love the people. Really go on lots of networking calls. That's so important, because as an entrepreneur, it's a very lonely place. It can be a very, very lonely place. And also if you have children, I have a young child, 11-year-old. So a lot of the time I have to work around that as well. Organize play dates. You know, I organize play dates with some of the neighbours, and it works. It's great. My husband works an awful lot. That's another story. I won't go down that road. So yeah, so there's a lot to take on. It's not easy, but it can be so rewarding.
It really can. Yes, thank you. I mean, it really is wonderful to hear your perspective. And I was just wondering, thinking about the book, I think, did I hear correctly when at the beginning when you said that your coach suggested you write a book?
Yeah.
Okay. And how did so tell us about that, and also quite interested about the coaching side of things, but also how, you know, how did you get the book published, and how did all of that process work? So, it's important. I always say to people, you know, get yourself, you know, get yourself a book, an ebook, or whatever it is. It's a fantastic way of establishing your expertise. So
it is.
You can speak to that. It is.
When I had my mentor, I was with him for a number of years, and, you know, he encouraged everybody to write a book. And I thought to myself, God, I'd be famous if I wrote a book, you know, an author, you know, it seemed really like, you know, out there, really, you know, like a famous person or something like that. You know, I never saw myself writing a book, to be honest, which when he said it, that's how I felt. And he said, a book is a business card on steroids. So if you ever go to a meeting and you have your book with you, and somebody wants to know more about you or work with you, you can give them a complimentary copy of your book, and that will definitely impress them. You've done your work, you've done your research. It shows that you're passionate about the subject. So his partner at the time did a workshop on writing your book, and because there is actually a process. And she basically said, I didn't know even what I was going to write about, because I was doing holistic treatments at the time. And she said, what is your customers' pain points? What are they all complaining about? Your customers that are coming to you, you know, what are they saying? And I said, oh my God. I went back to my consultation sheets, and they were all saying they were tired, they'd no energy. And they're only 30, 40 years of age. They'd children, they're at the prime of their life. And I was like, no energy. So like there's a lot of stress in the world, and I got to see what stress can do to people. You know, it really exhausts you, especially when you're hanging around someone who complains all day long. Oh my God, that just rips the energy out of you, and it's really important to be aware of that. So I wrote the book. She went to a whole day workshop. She basically I had to write down a couple of things, top questions that people would ask me about sleep. So I wrote that down, and then I turned it into a statement, and they were the chapters of my book. So that's how I got the chapters of my book. So I'm letting you in on a few secrets here. But so that's how and then I was told, go and get somebody who you know very well. Now, I'd done a lot of networking at the time, and my mentor helped get some people to endorse the book as well. And here's something really weird, right? Talk about energy in the world. I don't know if anybody knows Heidi Sawyer. Heidi Sawyer is, oh God, I think she's a 7-time international bestseller. She calls herself the intuitive sensitive, and she does a lot of energy work. I did a lot of work with her over the years. And there I am on a Saturday evening. My book is due to be, the final edits had to be given in on the Monday. So like that was it. It had to be done on the Monday. I'm standing there and I'm cooking my dinner at the cooker, and a voice comes into my head, send an email to Heidi Sawyer. And I was like, where did that come from? And I just continued cooking. But this message got louder and louder, send an email to Heidi Sawyer. And I thought, for God's sakes, if anyone saw me at the time, I was mad. But I went to my computer and I wrote an email to Heidi Sawyer. I said, look, I'm just about to send in my final edits for my book. I'd love an endorsement from you, blah, 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 whatever, something along the lines of that. I got an email back from her personal assistant 2 hours later, I kid you not. And she said to me, Joanne, Heidi normally never does endorsements or testimonials for people on their book. However, Heidi really wants to help you. Can you write out a testimony, write out 2 or 3 of them, and she'll pick one of them because she doesn't have time to read your book, and we'll choose one of them and you can have that. I had that by Monday morning for my book. So I self-published my book. self-published my book. I wouldn't do it that way the next time round. I am actually currently in the middle of writing a book, but it's on my own personal story. So I'm a victim of child sexual abuse. So I'm writing a story all about all the incidents growing up and really showing people how they can be empowered, like any tragedy can be turned around. So that's the book that I'm writing at the moment. I'm going to be doing that totally different. I might get a ghostwriter. I'm actually currently looking for someone at the moment. However, this book on sleep, I self-published. I found an editor. I asked everybody that I knew. My auntie was an avid book reader. So I asked her to read the book and to circle out anywhere where there was mistakes. So you can do this. You don't actually have to go and pay a big editor because they're very, very expensive. So I asked my auntie to, and she picked out more mistakes than the editor did. So I was a bit annoyed at the editor, but anyway, that's another story. So I learned. And yeah, I just went to, it was a family in Greystones, and he printed up 1,000 books. The more books you get printed, the cheaper it works out per book. He did, I actually did the cover art, but you can get him to do the artwork on the cover of the book and on the back of the book as well. You can use just Canva is great. Canva is, oh my God, there's loads of stock images there available that you can use for your book cover. I use Canva for everything, marketing, all that sort of stuff. But that's how I got my book to publish. And then I had a big book launch. That's really important. So I built up for that book launch. I had it in a hotel in Dublin. Loads of people came along to that. I invited guest speakers. So my guest speakers was my mentor and the lady who I did the workshop with. So they spoke on behalf. So they edified me. So they said, oh, Joanne's brilliant, blah, blah, blah. So that's edifying. And that's really important as well. And I sold over, it was about 122 books, I think it was. I sold that night. And then I pre-sold books. So I actually pre-sold books before it was even printed. So that's something you can do as well. You can pre-sell them. And then I shipped the whole lot of them out together the same week. So that's what I did. And then I created workshops around my book. And then I created, anytime someone did a workshop with me, they'd get a free copy of my book, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so that's just to that's just to give you an idea of how I launched my book.
That is absolutely fantastic. It's really interesting, isn't it? The discussion between, and I have actually made a video about that on the Complementary Medical Association website, about how to publish a book, how to get your book done, how to get it published. Should you go self-publishing or should you go the conventional publishing route?
Yeah.
Both approaches have a lot to recommend them and a lot to not recommend them.
Well, I'm stuck with a load of books now in my sitting room.
Yes.
In brown boxes.
Exactly. That's right. Exactly. Yes. I mean, it's an interesting one. I've done both routes myself, and I think my next one, I probably will go the self-publishing route. Back to that, because as I say, I've done both. I've been with HarperCollins, I've been with Penguin, Watkins, and I've done my own. And I actually say, I think when you are self-publishing, you've actually got a lot more control over things. Mm-hmm. But also, of course, you've got a lot more risk as well, and also, of course, if you go the conventional publishing route, you get a nice big fat retainer or advance, depending on how you phrase it. And that can be really helpful as well. But of course, it does mean that you're then under pressure to produce. Because if you don't, I'm not sure if everybody knows this, that if you don't produce and they've paid you this advance, you have to pay the advance back. Ouch! You may have spent it. I would have done. Yeah. So it's there are many different things to recommend it. So with your workshops, Joanne, tell me about that and how you promote those. Because again, I mean, when I'm talking about practice development to people, I always talk about going out and giving talks. So important. Running workshops, even better if you can do that because you get paid for them. How do you sort of find your audience and promote those, if you don't mind speaking on that?
Yeah, it's so great. It's such a great question. So I haven't done an in-live event in a long time, but I actually am doing one on the 24th of September here in Nice. So, and I'm really excited about this. But my workshops and how I've done them in the past is you got to do a build-up, obviously, to the workshop, because this thing, it has to land on people, I don't know, 10 times, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger every time I hear it, the hit points. So so you on your social media, lots of people use social media, for example. So there's loads of different types of posts that you can do on your social media. You can send out a quote, you can send out an article, you can write a blog article yourself, you can do a short video. There's loads of different ways that you can do a post, but mixing it up is really important. But at the end, you just say a little, give them a tiny little snippet of something, a bit of advice or whatever. And then at the end, if you'd like to know more, my workshop is on blah, 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 whatever. So you can do, there's various different ways that you can do it there. An email campaign is another way. So I use Aweber for my email database. So I would send out emails to those people as well. And I'd structure the emails and I'd send out different emails. But you don't want to be selling to people in your emails all the time. They say send out 3 emails with advice or whatever, and then every 4th email would be you're selling something, because people will unsubscribe from your email list quickly if you're just selling to them all the time. So, and people like freebies as well, and they want to get a taste of who you are and what you're like as well. So I think it's important to give people freebies as well. So that's how I market it really. I might do like a podcast with somebody and I'll advertise that at the end. Tell people, where they can find me, that type of thing. And then I do my own podcast as well. So I would say that at the, during my podcast, I do a little ad clip, or I might say to them at the beginning as well. So I put that into my own podcast too. So there's loads of ways that you can get it out there. The leaflet drop thing, I did that, and it's non-effective. It's a lot of work. It's not, in my opinion, it's not really effective. I think I dropped 5,000 leaflets. It was one year I did. It was an expo. I did an expo. Oh, it was a good few years ago, and it cost me a lot of money. I can't even remember how much it was, and I got a good deal, and I got someone to distribute them for me. But I don't know if he actually did distribute them. There was a bit of, I don't know, because there's some people that lived in the area said they didn't get the leaflet, so it left me kind of wondering, So leaflet drops can be expensive. Then you have to do the artwork if you're not that way inclined as well. So you can put free ads in. There's some websites where you can get free ads as well. I use kildare.ie, that I can put free ads up there as well. Your Google account, a lot of people don't know about this, but your Google account, if somebody searches for your name and it comes up on the Google business, you can actually put it in there. You can put a post in your Google business as well. And I would advise people to get 5-star reviews in their Google account as well, because that gives it more weight as well. So there's some of the ways that I'd market my workshop or a speaking event.
Brilliant, absolutely. Oh, brilliant, completely inspirational. I'm sort of sitting here thinking all the things that a lot of it's interesting, isn't it, when we start sort of talking about promotions, marketing and so on. I think we kind of know a lot of this instinctively, but I think sometimes we just need to hear it again, just to remind that, which is just what you've done it so brilliantly, so simply.
Another thing I'd add to that as well, Jenny, is I would private message people that I know, and just tell them, look, I have this workshop on, if you know anyone interested, let them know, pass it on, share it, whatever. So I'm not directly selling to them either. And they're people who I know, trust, and they know, trust, and like me, and I know and trust. And that's really important. So they're going to help me, do you know what I mean? And they're going to, if they're talking to someone, they'll say to them, and also get on as many networking calls as you can, because when you do your 30-second pitch, you can say what events you have coming up. So that's another thing as well you can do.
Yeah, fantastic. Actually, I was just going to say, this is obviously a really good sort of networking platform for you. I would be really interested if I was able to get over to you. I would come to your event. Absolutely. No ifs, buts and maybes. Would you, I was going to say, would you be able to share your contact details? Obviously, of course, we will have the contact details, under the video, but can you just tell us so that we can all make a note of your contact details, your website, and how to, how we can all take advantage of everything that you do?
Yeah, the best way, JohannCallaghan.com, and I spell my name really funny, really long story. I won't go into that, but JOHANN Callaghan.com. I am all Irish. So JohannCallaghan.com. I'll pop my link tree in the chat here as well. But Johann Callaghan, and even if you just type in Johann Callaghan in Google, it will come up. You'll find loads of interviews. I've done loads of interviews. You'll see my podcast. You'll see my website, and even in the link you'll see Johann Callaghan. Yeah, you'll find it all there. That's the simplest way that you can remember.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. Yes, thank you. I think it always helps having an interesting spelling of one's name. I mean, obviously, I speak from experience of the weird spelling of my first name, but it does mean that if you are, people searching for you, it does make it slightly easier to find you rather than being John Smith or somebody like that. Joanne, thank you so much for popping that in there. So if everybody can actually just, if you open up your chat, just by clicking at the bottom there, you'll actually be able to see Joanne's link tree, which is always such a good thing to have. If you don't have a link tree, it's well worth getting one. If you have different, various different things going on, I think many of us do in this field. Does anybody have any questions for Joanne? Joanne, please. We don't have too many in the group, so you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can pop questions in the chat box if you prefer to do that. So, just to sort of while we're finishing, while we're sort of coming to a sort of a natural close and coming to an end, Joanne, is there anything, whilst people are thinking about any questions they may have for you? I haven't said that, I think we've explained everything so incredibly well, but I know that Amal said she's loving the vibe of this talk, which is lovely. So am I. I think we all are. It's been absolutely incredible. Is there anything else that you can think of that might be useful for practitioners, whether they're experienced practitioners or just starting out? Are there any other words of wisdom you have, or encouragement? I
really think it's just so important to regularly get onto meetings. There's loads of Zoom meetings out there. There's loads of like health groups. But I think it's really important to get onto live meetings. Let people know who you are, like stay alive with people, and let people know that you exist, because people do forget about you. So let people know that you exist. Get onto as many meetings. And it is very lonely. A lot of people talk about the imposter syndrome. I've had it loads of times. But read positive things every day. Do positive things. Like as a sleep coach, I tell people to go out and get sunshine or daylight. Some people correct when I say sunshine. We don't always have sunshine, daylight, whatever. The sunlight. It is so important. It's something so simple. But when you reset, it basically resets your circadian rhythm. And when you're in sync with your circadian rhythm, you are on fire. Like there's possibilities. There's lots of possibilities. So look after yourself physically and mentally. Get your sleep and do your morning routine. Do not turn your phone on for the first hour of the day. People are like, oh, but I have to get work. And no, look after yourself first, right? Look after yourself first. Read 10 pages a day, or read for 10 minutes a day. My mentor always told me that as well. I like to look at YouTube. YouTube, I'm always educating myself. There's some fantastic YouTube channels out there. Like it's an online encyclopedia. Like it's just amazing. Like, but really look after yourself first, and look after your mental well-being as well, and really follow your heart. Like meditation is very big as well. A lot of people run a mile when you say meditation, but I think it's just misunderstood. Basically, it's just to get out of here and come down into your heart, because we're listening to our head and our ego all the time, and it means well, and our brain always wants to be doing something, but drop down into your heart and know what your values are, know what's important to you, like really know what your values are. Like we hear this all the time, but it's so super important, because that's what drives you, and you can get excited, and it's no longer work. It's just a joy to be alive. But when you have all of that in place, it really makes you optimistic, and you just want to live and help people. And yes, we're going to have just bumps in the road, but your resilience, you can just bounce back so much easier when you practice these things every day. So I can't stress that enough. Always ask yourself questions. Always ask, why did I do that? Why did I react that way? Because your brain will go off. It mightn't say the answer there and then, but it might a week later, because your brain's always trying to help you. So if you ask a question, why did I do that? It's just so empowering. Anyway, that I could talk about that forever.
No, honestly, it's just so helpful. I think we're going to have to get you back. So I think there's just so much more that that we could delve into. But quite honestly, I think this discussion has been phenomenally useful. I'm sure that our audience would agree. Do we have any questions at all, or are you all happy to wrap up at the moment? And if so,
can I ask a question?
Delta, yes, of course.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you tell me about how you found your coach?
How I found my coach?
Yeah.
Oh God, this was years ago now. And there's loads of coaches. I'm actually working with other coaches now at the moment. But the first coach, the first coach that I worked with, and I was with him for a solid 2 years, his name is Pat Slattery. I went to a conference, one of these feel good, healthy, how to survive in your business, or not survive, I hate that word, survive, thrive. And I just went to that. I was in a hotel, the City West Hotel in Dublin, and he'd basically put on a free seminar, and I loved what he had to say. He was talking all about positivity and the imposter syndrome, how to get over that, and I just loved it, and I really resonated with him. And he sold his program at the end of it. And but when you put on free events, you're very entitled to sell as well when you're doing free events, by the way. But if you get people to come to your paid events, it's kind of frowned upon if you're selling when your customers are paying for your event. You get me? So if you put on a free event, you can sell as much as you want. So he was selling, and I bought it on my birthday. I actually started it on my birthday, the 18th of May. I started his program, and I never looked back. And it was just, he got me speaking on stage with, other multimillionaire people. And oh my God, I could tell you more stories about that another time, but because that was fun. That was a learning curve as well.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. Great question, Delta. Thank you very much indeed.
Question?
Yes, of course.
Because it's interesting, that whole process of marketing our skill sets and things like that. And I missed the first 5 minutes of the talk, and I'm just wondering, Joanne, whether you produce products, a bit like the book, where you can actually produce like a tool set for people, so you're kind of doing more passive income rather than kind of one-to-ones, because I feel that's the next formula, isn't it? It's that we have a wealth of knowledge, and it's all about the pain point and realizing that the same tools apply for everybody, really.
Absolutely. So there's a tier system that I use, and I'm actually developing something new at the moment. But so you start off with a low, like you always have a freebie. So this is your lead magnet. So that's your freebie, like a free ebook. And then I have my physical book. So and then I'd have like a master class that I would sell people. And I do that live monthly. I haven't done it last month now, actually, but I do live master classes. And then my signature program is my highest earner, if you like, my high ticket product. And that's a 12-month group coaching program. So everything's tiered. And like, if someone comes into my masterclass, one of my low-level products, I can tell them about what's next, what else they can do with me. So I have, although a lot of my stuff, I like doing a lot of my stuff live. I repurposed my signature program. I repurposed that, and I sell that as recorded at a lower price as well. So a lot of people aren't available live. The times don't suit. You're not going to always get everyone, the times suiting everybody. So I sell that as a DIY. Package as well. So that's
really how we have to go, isn't it? Because it's
the tier system is what's important, because your client will always want to know what's next. What's next? How else can I work with you?
So basically, it's the live once a month masterclass, or classes that kind of get people on their track to solving their sleep problems.
Because a lot of the time people want to see, they don't want to invest a lot of money in you unless they know you're good. So, you can offer them a masterclass so that then they can get a taster of you. They
have to get the sense of it. I understand. So that's interesting. So it's one to many, and because sometimes people do pre-recorded podcasts, audios, because I'm thinking more audio, selling people a series of audios.
And I have my audio book as well. That's another thing, actually, another product I have. But audios, podcasts are just coming. So many people listen to podcasts. That's very effective. Get onto as many other platforms as you can too.
Because people consume more audio now, don't they? Because everywhere they go, they consume audio.
I listen to my podcast when I'm cutting the grass.
Exactly. So it's interesting. So that's how you've kind of condensed your knowledge. So you start to
and there's no pressure. There's no pressure. It's not like I have to do this now. There's no pressure. Just gets done.
I'm really looking at kind of getting away from that one-to-one, because I think when you've been doing it for many years and you've learned all the lessons, you've seen thousands of clients, then you have to go to that next stage where
I love the group work. I love the group work because
that energizes you, as opposed to one-to-one where you're listening to people's problems, and that can, you know, we as healers think that we have to be these amazing people that have to just listen to people's problems, and that wears you down, you know. And
there's a lot of it. Yeah, there's a lot.
It's like we forget that's the wounded healer, isn't it? And I do see in my cohort of people getting quite sick because they kind of are too much playing that role of being the person that now has all the answers and has to listen to everyone else's stuff.
I even seen that when I was doing all my massage work and Reiki and stuff, and when I was doing a lot of clients, I was exhausted. I was picking up on their energy, and I've heard of a lot of holistic practitioners getting sick.
That's what I find as I get older, because like most of us here are sensitive, where you have got this huge bandwidth, but you're capacitating that dense negativity, and actually that's not part of the process. You will just want to say, look, you've got the problem, you sit with your problem, I'm going to give you tools now, I'm going to feed you the tools. It's
about empowering them to be responsible and take it on. They've got to be responsible, because you can't fix anyone.
Exactly. We don't capacitate the responsibility or the you know, the negativity, because otherwise they're just offloading, and that's a huge trap that a lot of healers get into, isn't it?
A lot of people are in the victim mentality. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And they then have to make you the one that's responsible, and
you're the coach, you should know, fix me.
Exactly. It's very, very subtle. People don't do that consciously, but I just recognize my energy levels go down, and I just have to really find that product. The trouble is, when you're a jack of all trades, then you finding the niche product is important, isn't it? You know,
you can be so stretched.
That's the challenge. But once you've found that pain point and you think, well, this is the one that's gonna, you know, I've got all the tools for that, then that's the magic sort of key, isn't it? You know.
Absolutely. And you got to make it simple for them to use, and they've got to like it as well, because it's not like, I have to use this tool today.
Everyone's very lazy. I mean, it's getting simpler and simpler, isn't it? People, you just literally have to just press one button, and if you have to do any more than that, then already you know. So it's exactly, ease of use, because again, it's part of human nature, isn't it? You know, it's the entropy thing. It's
absolutely.
Like,
thank you for that. That's so great.
Absolutely great questions, Mika. Thank you so much. We've got some comments here. We've got Sharon saying, I'm so glad I joined this meeting this morning. Thank you so much for sharing and educating us. I've learned so much. Lovely comment. Thank you, Sharon. Amal says, such a lovely way to start the day. Yes, healers' wounds are a big part of too much one-to-one, 100%. Absolutely. Sally, Heather says, thank you, Joanne and Janie. I have to leave now. Have a beautiful day, Heather. And Sally says, an excellent session. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Great.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this has been, wow, I'm talking about value for money. You know, okay, we haven't paid for it, but never mind. Having said that, Joanne, I mean, honestly, you've just given us so much value, and I know that people will be coming back and will be checking out your site, and actually I'm sure will be buying your book and so on. So I think this has been so valuable for all of us in every respect. Our lovely Stephen says, fascinating session. Thanks so much, Joanne. You know, I've looked at your website and everything you've got. I think what you're doing is so valuable and so important in the world. I'm definitely going to get you back for a further discussion, because I think we've just scratched the surface, haven't we, really? So yes, we've got
to look after each other. We've got to look after each other.
Absolutely, completely, 100%. So look, everybody, if there aren't any more questions, or if there are, even, you've got Joanne's contact details. I'm sure that you wouldn't mind. I mean, I don't
PM me, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, for people to contact you, that's great. And I just want to say, Meryl says goodbye, everybody. I have a morning for Zoom sessions, right? Enjoy your Zooms. Don't get too hot, everybody. But Joanne, honestly, thank you so much for being with us. It's been absolutely magical.
Welcome. Thanks for having me. Really, really enjoyed it. It's great.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll let you get on with your days. Have a beautiful day. Don't get too hot. Much love to everybody, and we'll see you soon. Take good care. Bye-bye. Bye all.